Mike, it seems like for months you've been telling us about this really good looking defensive lineman by the name of Tiki Hola. And last week you said it was down to Notre Dame and SMU, and Coach Washington and the Irish coaching staff got the job done with this prospect.
What a massive commitment. Tiki listed at 6'2.5", 285 pounds. I was told he checked in at Notre Dame like between 6'3" and 6'4" and 300 pounds. So this is a versatile interior defensive lineman that Notre Dame is very excited to land him. In talking with sources for like the past, I would say like 6 to 8 weeks, everyone, that you talk to connected to the program is just telling me, like, when I ask, hey, like, what's next? Who does Notre Dame need to land next? Tiki's name was always, one of the first couple brought up. Notre Dame knew that it was, getting close to a commitment from him potentially in terms of like the timeline. And then at the end of March, you put out a top 3 of Notre Dame, SMU, and USC, Darren, and figured out pretty quickly that USC didn't seem like they were a big contender to land him. It was really coming down to Notre Dame, the school in South Bend, Indiana, and then SMU in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Tiki is an Austin area kid. He's in the Bastrop, Texas, which is outside of Austin. And, SMU is like 3 hours and maybe a little bit of change away. So it was like, do I, stay in state? It's still a drive to get up there. Do I go to Notre Dame? And Darren, this one went down to the wire. It's, like 99 out of 100 prospects. They tell the school that where they're going, right? It's very, very rarely that when you pick up the hat and you'll put it on, the coaching staff is like, wait, what? Committed us? We've had a few of these over the years, Darren. Emil Wagner was a shocker a few years ago. Kingston Viliamu went down to the wire. Notre Dame knew when he announced it, but that one went down to the wire. Madden Faramos in December, that definitely was like a day of decision, at least in terms of telling Notre Dame. And then you have Tiki Hola. Darren, I talked to multiple people who are connected, and I don't know if anyone on the Notre Dame staff really knew at the time he stepped to that podium or sat down, at that table. I don't think many people knew at all. So this was, again, went down to the wire, at least in terms of Tiki telling Notre Dame. Maybe Tiki, like there was a leprechaun that ran out during his announcements and started doing a little jig. So maybe Tiki knew, but in terms of who he told, this was again a surprise. Maybe not a surprise, but there was Notre Dame was nervous for sure. I mean, like Notre Dame's Al Washington and Nick Sebastian had a home visit with him on Thursday night, and it went well. But you're thinking you're announcing in less than 2 days. I'm in your home. If you don't tell me you're coming here, it's probably not good for us. So that's why I was like, man, leading up to that decision, I was nervous. And then you talk to people on the SMU side of things, and SMU thought that they had done enough to get Tiki's commitment, which at the same time Notre Dame did as well. But just not getting that news on the Thursday definitely made you nervous. So long-winded way to say a drama-filled. Maybe drama is not the best word, Darren. But again, I don't want to repeat the same term, for the 10th time. But it went down to the wire. In terms of him as a player, said this at the top. Interior run stuffer, ton of potential. Notre Dame absolutely fired up. Another Polynesian prospect as well. Notre Dame, especially on that defensive side of the ball, loves the Polynesian pipeline that they've built. Third defensive line commit of the class. You got a couple of elite defensive end prospects. This was the interior guy that Notre Dame definitely had as a top of the board target, and they're fired up to have him. They're going to take a couple more defensive linemen, a wide range of players and positions, but it's going to be mostly interior focused, maybe like a swing guy between, is he a 3 technique? Is he a 5 technique? But Tiki Hola gives the Irish quite the boost, and we'll see who they add moving forward. But likely 5 total, potentially could be 6, but I think it'll be like another big interior defensive lineman and then a swing guy.
Well, the greatest intersectional rivalry in college football history is Notre Dame USC, and it feels like the rivalry has taken a couple of steps forward, at least from a Notre Dame fan base perspective, once Chad Bowden left Notre Dame to go out to work at USC. And there just seems to be a spotlight on everything that's happening with USC right now. They got Kennedy Urlacher out of the portal from Notre Dame. But is Notre Dame trying to make any moves on any USC commits?
It's a great question, Darren. It's almost like I had you ask me.
Yeah.
You're a brilliant question asker. So here's the timeline. There's a prospect named Cohen Brown from, let's see if I can pronounce this close, Waxahachie, Texas.
Nice.
He commits to USC in early April, and all seemed fine with that Trojans commitment. And then Notre Dame comes along, and I heard that Mike Brown really valued this prospect a while back. I don't have all of the details. I don't know why Notre Dame just offered him, was it last week or the week before? But Gino Guidugli then went and saw the quarterback at Waxahachie, a young man named Jerry Meyer. And from what I understand, Gino calls up, his buddies on the staff, is like, we looking at Cohen Brown? Like, this kid's awesome. So then the next week, Mike Brown goes out and sees Cohen Brown, spent like a few hours there, which is above board. You're allowed to do that now with the high school juniors going in their senior year, and offered him on the spot right after seeing him in practice. Fast forward a few days later, Cohen Brown decommits from USC. My understanding is maybe just weren't on the same page about some things, and I think it'll be Notre Dame at the end of this thing. I think Missouri is another school to watch, and we'll see who else maybe re-enters the mix now that he's back on the board. Maybe some schools that had offered him before, but I do think that this is a player to keep a close eye on. So no longer a USC commit, but yeah, Notre Dame. I think that, they should be considered the team to beat right now. He'll get up to campus in June for an official visit. That is being scheduled. And how about this? Before he even got that offer from Notre Dame, he was at Javian Osborne's commitment ceremony. So he was there to see, his buddy commit to the Fighting Irish publicly. And Osborne is a very vocal recruiter for Notre Dame. That's something he takes very seriously. This is the running back from Forney, Texas, and talk about with Osborne, and Cohen Brown is going to be a top guy from Texas. Is just so crucial. We just talked about Tiki Hola, Javian Osborne, Cohen Brown, and then they would like to land Braden Robinson and Caden Finley, a couple other impressive Texas prospects. And then Alistair Veheo down. He's another Austin area defensive lineman. So you're looking at a half a dozen potentially for Notre Dame in the Lone Star State, and Cohen Brown is definitely a really impressive one, highly productive. I don't have his stats in front of me, but I wrote about him at Blue and Gold the other day. He had a heck of a junior season, and Notre Dame thinks the world of this prospect.